Greetings and aloha from Bali, Indonesia. This video is something I've been wanting to share for a really long time, and I'm actually scared out of my mind to share it, and that's why I'm sharing it, because one of the things that I feel is so important for us to do in this lifetime is to fully face the darkness, the old stories, the programs, the shadow self that we have, each and every single one of us, and to fully move into those areas of our life as luminaries, to bring light to the darkness, to be able to become more aware of what's happening in our lives, so that we can begin to have a deeper understanding of who we truly are deep down inside of us, deep in our bones, beyond the story. It is the essence of who I am. And ultimately, this story has played out throughout my entire life, ever since childhood, when I was sexually abused by my gymnastics coach between the ages of 10 until 12. This was one of the most shaming, confusing, and frustrating and painful experiences of my entire life. Now, the experience itself of being touched by my gymnastics coach, who was a man, at the age of 10, the experience was not necessarily the painful part. It didn't hurt. It was actually kind of enjoyable at the time, in a sense of like curiosity. You know, when you're a kid and you're, like playing with your friends and like, I don't know, some people have had those experiences, some people haven't. But this is something that is an edge to even talk about this, and that's why I want to talk about it, because what I've realized is that my entire life I've had so much shame and guilt around this story, and I just want to be able to say fuck it. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about it anymore, and I just want to be real and be able to share my story. So, yeah. It wasn't the experience itself that was painful, but rather it was when my coach went to jail for molesting another boy in my class, and investigators and police and teachers and friends and parents came to me asking if I too was also abused. And I said no. Could you imagine, in a sense, coming out of the closet on public television when you're 12 years old? Could you imagine having your sexual gender or your sexual orientation chosen for you before you even had the ability to choose? Because let's face it, at 12 years old, how sexually active are kids? Hopefully not. At 12 years old, kids should be playing. Kids should be fucking learning how to communicate their emotions. Kids should be learning about their identity and being able to piece together, where they fit into this world, and start to, like explore their curiosity and their critical thinking. But instead, for me, I was deep inside a dark cave of pain, suffering, depression, and silent suicide. Multiple times I tried to kill myself. Tried to end it. And it wasn't until one day when I finally decided that it was time. I was in so much pain. And in fact, I'm pretty sure the experience was triggered by my father, who at the time was reacting unconsciously. He was very mad, very angry, treating me like shit. And I said, fuck it, this is enough. My parents don't love me. I mean, obviously they do, and I love my parents so much, but they at the time didn't have any idea what was going on. So I'm going to end it. So that's exactly what I did. I went to hang myself. It was one of the first things I Googled when I was online, when the internet first came out. I Googled how to tie a noose I remember looking it up and fashioning a series of shoelaces together, and I tied a noose. And I wrapped that tiny cable around my neck, and I was going to end my own life. And then something happened. I had a divine intervention. At the time, it was God who came to me. It was the voice of God. It was the only thing that I knew. I didn't know any other voice. Didn't know any other name. I was, raised in a Christian family, and so there I am on the edge, about to make the decision of my lifetime. And in that moment, I got a download from the source, from creation, that you can either come here and be with me, and that's okay, or you can stay there, or you can stay here and you can heal this for yourself and for the world. It was at that moment that I decided to stay. I broke down in tears at the age of 12 years old, face to the floor, weeping. I don't know what the fuck you have for me here on this planet, but there's something. There's something that needs to be done on this planet. There is a mission for me. There's something great for you here. I can feel it. And I felt it so deeply. I felt it so deeply. Something was here for me, and there was a reason for me here. And so I stayed. And so I went through my entire life searching for truth, searching for answers. I knocked on every single door of every religion I could find to ask them, how do they experience salvation? At the same time, simultaneously, I was escaping through drugs and alcohol. And I got caught into it. I got caught into shitty tribes of people. I had horrible mentors. Fucking fucked up men. Stupid fucking idiots. Who I looked up to and idolized. People who were just careless. They didn't give a fuck about anything. And I looked up to them. And it was because everyone else was scared of them. They were just wild animals, uncontained animals. Everyone was scared to upset them. And so I looked up and idolized these people, and I started to not give a fuck. So life went on. I found passion. But I'll never forget the first quote that I ever hung on my wall by Albert Einstein. It said that there are those who believe that in life everything is a miracle, and there are those who believe that nothing is a miracle. And I made that decision at that point in my life that I was going to be the type of person that sees life as if everything is a miracle. So synchronicity after synchronicity unfolded before my eyes, and eventually I got to a point where I realized the truth that I was looking for. I discovered it. I discovered the truth that I was looking for. I got hit by a truck. I read The Power of Now. I had a profound spiritual awakening, and it led me on a fucking epic journey. It led me on an epic journey. Because for the very first time in my entire life, I finally realized that I have been living in unconscious thought. I've been living in the identity of my ego. I've been living in the unconscious identity of who I thought I was versus who I truly am right now in this moment. A divine source of creation. A divine source of creation. The source of divine creation. I lost touch with it. I thought I was getting it through religion, through organized religion, but when I realized that organized religion is just an outdated system. Organized religion is just an outdated technology But in the same way that you upgrade your operating system in your iPhone, or the same way that you operate your iPhone, you go from the iPhone 9 to the iPhone X, right? You upgrade. I upgraded. But it didn't mean that I just discounted all of those old apps and those belief systems. I just got to curate my own belief system. I got to go on that hero's journey, that quest. So this is a tough video for me to make because after waking up, I fell asleep many times over and over again. There was a deep neurophysiological trauma that is woven inside of my neural architecture that causes me, when I step up to an edge, it contracts. I start to fall back to my old way of being. And this is a human experience. This is not just a sexual abuse, childhood trauma, sexual abuse experience. This is a human experience. We all get anxiety when we step up to the edge of speaking in public. We all get anxiety when we step to the edge of a building and look over the side. This is a human experience. This is an existential crisis that we all get to share collectively together. And so, that said, I began my journey, and at one point I had a mental breakdown. And I was in Thailand. I was with some friends, and actually I was with Kevin Happel, my good friend. And there was a moment when we were hanging out, and I was wasted, and we were hanging out with these girls, and he said something to me. I said something stupid, he said something to me, and it just caused me to have a trigger. And I collapsed back into the pain. I collapsed back into the story. Catherine said, did it happen to you too? Hanging out with my good buddy Kevin, who I grew up with in elementary school. He was also in gymnastics with me. He said something to me. It caused me to go back to a moment when we were in elementary school, and he came up to me and he said, hey, did Joel molest you too? Collapsed. I broke down in tears. I fell to the fucking ground. Fell to the ground. I just wept. I went into my room. I locked myself in there. I fucking just had a mental breakdown. I was fucking slamming my face into the fucking mattress. I was punching everything I could get my hands on. I was fucking freaking out. Again, silently. That's when I knew I had to get clean. I had to detoxify myself. So I decided to go sober that day. Next day I was out with my buddies in Thailand. We're on a boat, they're drinking beers, and they hand me a beer, and I said, sorry guys, I'm quitting drinking. What? Like, okay. So I fucking gave up alcohol. I got totally sober for 6 months. And I was just trying to fucking figure it out. I was like, fucking, it's a slow and painful, uncomfortable process, trying to do the work, trying to process the information, seeing doctors, just like doing meditation but not really feeling it. And then one day I was at the Oregon Country Fair, and I did some MDMA, and it's a very heart expanding experience if you've ever tried it. And again, had a mental breakdown, but this time it wasn't a mental breakdown. It was a moment of catharsis. It was a moment of revelation and reverence for the pain and the trauma that I've been through for my entire life. And I realized in that moment, I need to fucking heal this. But I haven't even been able to tell my mom. You know? And so finally there came a moment. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just tell my mom once and for all. I'm going to heal this once and for all. And that became my mantra. I'm going to heal this once and for all. And from that moment forward, I began on the journey to healing myself deeply. And it's been a fucking crazy journey. It's been a fucking crazy journey. But it all led up to calling my gymnastics coach. I got home, my mom was on the phone with one of her friends, Heather Wade, who was the heir of Art Bell. Don't fucking turn that thing on. And that was it. That was it. I heard her talking to her friend about my story and how proud she was of me. And in that moment, all of a sudden, everything in my subconscious story, my entire reality, the story that I had held on to for so many years, faded away. This is a rebirth. This is a rebirth. This is a day of activating Christ consciousness. And so, in that moment that I heard her talking about him, I said, you know what? I heard a voice. I heard a voice inside that said, call him now. Clearer than ever. Once again, boom, what? Right now? I look at my phone, it was 11 o'clock at night. I was on the phone calling him at 11:11. I looked him up online, I found his number, boom, got on the call. And that was it. He answered. We talked for an hour. How's that working out for you?